Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with Dr. Sarah Jane Corke. She's an associate professor at the University of New Brunswick. Sarah Jane, I had to cut you off there. You were just about to tell me how wrong I was about weapons of mass destruction. So please continue with your thought on that.
Never wrong, just that it's very complex. And historians are very much divided on the extent to which the debate over the weapons of mass destruction became politicized. So, what I would say is within the CIA, there are thousands of employees. Depending on which employee you talk to, you get a different answer to whether they felt they were strong arms or whether they didn't, whether they believed the intelligence was politicized or whether they didn't. Senior leadership across the board has argued that it was not politicized. Congress has, in their report, suggested that it was not politicized.
Mm,
But if you talk to some people within the analytical branches, they feel that their arms were twisted a bit.
fair enough. Fair enough. So let's fast forward a little bit. And I want sort of your general assessment of this. Do you think that America is now or has been on track with its intelligence strategy?
I think yes. If you're asking me whether I think the director of national intelligence is useful and that it was a good position to create in 2004, I would say absolutely yes. I think it's critical for the coordination and integration of this Central Intelligence Agency and the other 18 agencies, rather 17 agencies, 18 in all, that make up the American intelligence community. There really needed to be an effort to create links between the CIA and the FBI after 9/11. They needed to find ways to coordinate intelligence because it hadn't been happening. And so I think, yes, they are on the right track now.
Interesting. So you would conclude that they're working together better now?
Oh, yes. Yes. All the evidence suggests that integration of the intelligence community has become much greater in the last 20 years.
And what
Absolutely.
and what does that look like exactly? How is that operationalized?
But so it works. Well, first of all, initially it started with mission centers. So what
Mm,
they would do is they bring people from different places in the intelligence community into these mission centers, and they would all work together to develop an intelligence strategy. So you would have somebody in the Iran Mission Center, for example, from the FBI, from the CIA, from the Defense Intelligence Agency, from the NSA, and instead of having all those different agencies be working on Iran, and they all do work on Iran, you would have this mission center that was a coordinated effort as well. Um, Second, in terms of actual presenting intelligence to the president, every day the president of the United States, well, 6 days a week, he gets what's called the president's daily brief. In the past, up until 2004, really, the CIA was the primary contributor to the president's daily brief. Now, people from all across the intelligence community, even people in the Coast Guard, can contribute intelligence if it's needed, can contribute to that and do contribute to that. So
mm.
the president gets a much better and wider view of what is happening. Now, the CIA is still the primary driver, but the PDB really does have more voices contributing to the product, the final product.
Gotcha. This one's a little bit out of left field, but obviously, watching the Middle East over the last year and a half, we saw a massive intelligence and or military failure from Israel to anticipate the October 7th attacks. And then we
Mhm.
saw, I would argue, a massive win by intelligence and military to neutralize Hezbollah, to neutralize Hamas. Are there any lessons to be learned on that front from the Israelis?
Well, certainly the operations that the Israelis undertook, the actually using the cell phones and the pagers and planting explosive devices, and those are long term strategies. It's clear that the Israelis have been developing and targeting Hezbollah for a long time before those operations unfolded, and so I think the time and the resources that went into those campaigns is very important. I mean, covert operations take a long time. They're not
Mm.
something that you can do. Say you get a plane, you want to do it tomorrow. It's something that you really should give a lot of detailed thought to and a lot of planning to.
That's a really good point. We in the public just tend to see the results of an operation, but you're saying there's so much preparatory work goes into that.
Yes.
Understood. Now, there have been recently an attack or attacks in the U.S., purportedly from ISIS, or at least inspired by ISIS. And there's some questioning about the intelligence agencies, whether they're concentrating on the right things or the wrong things. We're going to take another commercial break, but I would love to get your thoughts on that
Absolutely.
particular matter before we end the program. We'll be back after these messages.